First, I'd like to introduce our main speaker today. Mike Gauss is a man who needs no introduction in this group. He is the founder of Houston Oasis. He is the executive director of our community. He's also vice president of the Oasis Network. He's been interviewed on MSNBC. He's been interviewed by The Atlantic and Time Magazine. And he is a Starbucks aficionado. Mike Gauss.
Thanks, Eric. I'm like a founder, not the founder, but I appreciate that. So, yeah, good to see you guys. Glad you made it out on Time Change Sunday. So I have this thing like once every 10 years or so, my heart just kind of goes totally bonkers for no good reason. And the last time it happened was about 10 years ago, so I'm overdue. And when it happened the last time, and then when this happens, I know what I have to do, and I know I have to go to the hospital to get them to fix it, and they do. But last time it happened, I woke up in the middle of the night, my heart was beating very, very rapidly with no rhythm. Okay, like, not like an irregular rhythm, no rhythm. So I knew this was happening again. And at the time, my family was overseas, I was by myself. And so I decided, well, I'm just wait a little bit, because sometimes it kind of gets better on its own. So I waited, and it didn't get better, so I thought, okay, well, I'm going to have to go to the hospital. Now, the smart thing to do in such a situation would be to call a friend, or get one of my neighbors to drive me to the hospital. But it was 12:30 in the morning. I didn't really feel like, imposing on anybody. It seemed like such an imposition, So I didn't want to impose, and plus I was still lucid. And I could walk around, and it's only a 10-minute drive to the hospital, so I got this, I can do this. But I suspected it wasn't going to be a quick in and out thing at the hospital. It might be a couple days, so I knew neighbors were going to have to come over to take care of the dog and stuff. So I thought, well, while I'm still feeling well, I should straighten up a bit. I did. So in the midst of an acute attack of atrial fibrillation, I decided I should straighten up a little bit because, the neighbors and what would they think. And so I took the trash out and I did some dishes in the sink. Looked pretty good, and I was starting to feel worse. I still felt capable of driving. Put extra food in the dog dish. Said, bye Skippy, Daddy's got to go now. Daddy might not be coming back. And I still remember his little eyes looking up at me. They know so much. And then on the way to the hospital, which is like I said, a 10-minute drive, I drove right by a popular local music joint. It's called Moe's. Some of you have heard of Moe's. And by this time, it's like 1:30 in the morning, and I'm driving by, feeling steadily worse, and I noticed that the parking lot of Moe's was packed. And I could hear the music. This is a weeknight, okay? It's packed. I could hear music. I could see people out there having a good time. In the midst of my distress, I vividly remember feeling the emotion of resentment. Like, hey, I'm dying over here, and you guys are all having a good time. Life is not fair. So I felt some resentment. Well, I made it to the hospital and started walking over to the ER entrance. By that time, my heart was not really pumping efficiently at all, so I ended up having to crawl into the ER on my hands and knees, literally. And but the medical staff was good, and they got there quick and got me on a stretcher. And long story short, a couple days later, I was released and feeling fine. But looking back on that event, a few things strike me. I took the time to straighten up the house because at some level I was concerned about the judgment of others, which is a kind of a fear of rejection, right? Even in a severe health crisis, my brain was capable of feeling resentment at people at the music club, and although my heart wasn't pumping miserably, there was still enough blood going to my brain to have a bad case of FOMO, fear of missing out. And I'm just interested in how your body prioritizes these things. And then after the event, numerous friends and neighbors scolded me for not calling them. And I know that any one of them, if they had been in a similar situation, I would have gladly driven them to the hospital. I wouldn't have hesitated, But when I was the one in need, it was hard for me to ask for help because I was more concerned about inconveniencing them. And then even in the midst of a potentially life-threatening health crisis, my brain focused on social things. This wasn't conscious on my part. This is my brain telling me what to do. I was focusing on social things, other people, and how I relate to others. And I don't think that's strange. I really don't think I'm an outlier. I think many of you would have done something similar, or not. I don't know. You don't know until it happens. One of the most fundamental facts about human existence is that we are a tribal species. We are a social species, and that is never, ever going to change. For hundreds of thousands of years, actually if you include the predecessor species, for millions of years, we lived in tribal units of 100 to 150 people, and that has shaped an awful lot of how we interact with the world and with other people. It explains a lot. In fact, I was going to use this for something else, but let me put this up there. That's okay, let's say that's, okay, Homo sapiens has been around for like 200,000 years at least, right? But then there were other things like Australopithecus and whatever before that, for millions of years before that. But just let's stick with Homo sapiens. And if we've been around, let's say this line is 200,000 years, we only started settling down in kind of settled agricultural communities, what, 8,000, 10,000 years ago, something like that? So, there. I really think we ought to, and how we talk about the history of humanity and how we became to where we are today, I think we ought to redefine what ancient is. Okay, because ancient Greece is not ancient. Okay, when we read ancient Greek literature, like they sound a lot like us. And they were. They just wore, togas or whatever, but there was Rome. But you know what I mean? So they're like the same as us. We're just ancient Greeks, and anyway. So this entire time, all humans do is live in tribes of 100 to 150 people. It's only here that we started to, and then it was only here that the alleged Jesus showed up, which always started to puzzle me, because it's like, well, if he came to save all of humanity, why did he wait so darn long? That's a different topic. Couldn't resist. So those are the conditions our species evolved in, and that explains pretty much everything about us today. We are still looking for a tribe. It explains why millions of Chicagoans gathered the other day, all wearing Cub caps and Cub jerseys. We have one in the crowd today. Where are you, Taki? Oh, there he is back there, okay. Millions of Chicagoans put on the gear, gathered outside, had a parade, and it can all be summed up in this. Yay, we won. That's what it was about, There were no profound ideas exchanged in the no, it was like, yay, we won. Well, that's normal. That's people getting together and say, yay, we won is just another way of looking for that elusive feeling of belonging to a tribe. They were looking for that tribe, that long-lost tribe that we belong to in the African savannah. That's what that's about. We're acting these out, these rituals. Our tribal past explains why we fear rejection so much, because rejection means being ostracized from the tribe, and in the ancestral environment that would have been life-threatening. We experience rejection as a threat to our very being. In fact, our brain scans, bear in mind, I'm an English major, so just take the science with a grain of salt. But I do read stuff, okay? And apparently, our brains kind of sort of process emotional pain the same way they process physical pain, because it's a threat to our being. Our tribal past explains why we think people are looking at us all the time. Because in the world in which our brains evolved, we knew everybody. There wasn't anybody that we didn't know. You rarely met anybody outside your tribe, and you were rarely alone. So people really were watching you pretty much all the time. People lived in close quarters. our tribal past also explains the magic of television and movies. Our brains did not evolve to process photography and movies, right? So when we see characters on TV, our brains are telling us that these people really are our friends. We don't know the difference. We connect with them at an emotional level. I still kind of harbor a grudge against Sandra Bullock because I was at a Mardi Gras parade in New Orleans one time and she was on a float and I swear she made eye contact with me and tossed the beads another direction, joking. She knew. So, E.O. Wilson describes the human predicament. We are hampered by a Paleolithic curse. This is, the great ant guy, Edward Wilson, E.O. Wilson. We are hampered by a Paleolithic curse, genetic adaptations that worked very well for millions of years of hunter-gatherer existence, but are increasingly a hindrance in a globally urban and techno-scientific society. We have ancient minds in a technological world. And that pretty much sums up the human condition. Ancient minds, and when E.O. Wilson says ancient, he's not talking ancient Greece, ancient Egypt, he's talking ancient minds in a technological world. And that pretty much sums up a lot of our condition. So our tribal past also explains why we so often enjoy life experiences more in the company of others. A couple weeks ago, we had the very first ever Oasis at Sea cruise. It was a wonderful event. By popular demand, we're going to be doing something like that every year. It might not be a cruise every year, but Oasis people from around the country want to get together and just chill. And it was great. And then we had a Sunday gathering, and T.C. Smythe, our music coordinator back there, doing something, I don't know. Selling shirts, okay. She played the music for our Sunday gathering on the ship, and she also, at other times, broke out her guitar for impromptu performances in bars and even on the deck. Amazing. Now, I'm sure that TC has a really good time just strumming her guitar and singing at home. But I'm also willing to bet that for her, the joy of doing that is exponentially greater when she gets to share it with others, right? It is. Yep. One of our resident artists, Dennis Fair, recently produced another piece of art that he posted it in our private group, and I love it when he does that. And there again, I'm sure Dennis has a great time working in his studio, but there is an extra joy in the sharing. And when you're with another person and you see a rainbow, what do? Look at that. Look at that. I mean, really, seriously. It's almost like you have to say, look at the rainbow. I mean, I remember fixing breakfast for my kids, and if there was a double yolk, I'd call them in to look at it. You got to share these things with people. In recent decades, psychologists have been spending a lot of time studying human happiness. And they're pretty consistently finding out that happiness is linked to our relationships with other people. In one study, researchers asked people to recall the last time they spent more than $100 on something for fun and enjoyment. And with one group, they asked them to think about something they spent, like an experience they spent more than $100 on, like going to a show or going to a dinner. And the other group think about an object that they spent more than $100 on for fun or enjoyment. Then they had to fill out a questionnaire. And what they found was that the people who had spent money on a concert or a trip or a great meal were far more satisfied with the expenditure than those who had spent money on a material object. Most activities that cost more than $100 are activities that we're going to be doing with other people, right? But expensive material possessions are often purchased to impress other people. Activities connect us with others, objects often separate us. When Karl Marx, I'm sorry, I don't have a watch anymore, so I gotta see how we're doing for time. Okay, we're doing okay. When Karl Marx died at the age of 64, exactly 11 people showed up at his funeral. 11 people. In his lifetime, Das Kapital sold something like 1,000 copies, and that was it. He died in obscurity. And yet 75 years after his death, more than 1/3 of the Earth's population were living under political systems inspired by his work. Yes, they were grossly distorted versions of his work, but they were living under them nonetheless, under ideas inspired by Karl Marx. All over the world, people erected statues and busts of Karl Marx. But he never knew that. He never knew that. When he died, 11 people showed up. I think a lot of them were family. And that was it. I don't know if that's sad or, I don't know what it is. I mean, some people are okay with having like 4 friends, okay? But it strikes me as a little bit lonely in a way. You know, Yogi Berra once said, always go to other people's funerals, otherwise they won't go to yours. Life is really, really short. Even the longest human lifespan is a fraction of a blip of a second on the cosmic clock. Over the years, when I've had the chance to visit with older people, and I love the story that you shared earlier, Marina, when you talk to people in their late 80s, 90s, even close to 100, and the one thing I hear again and again is, where did it all go? It went by so quickly. The longer I live, the more convinced I am is that friendship is what it's all about. Nothing enriches life more than other people. Oasis at Sea was really one of the best trips of my life. There were 73 of us on board. Everywhere you went, you ran into Oasis. We had Oasis lanyards, and we had great meals together. We sang karaoke together, and we went on shore excursions. And it wasn't like constant togetherness. Like if you just didn't want to do anything, you'd go off and be by yourself. It's fine. It wasn't like everyone has to be together all the time. It was like this, you know, time together, time alone, time with a few friends, whatever. You know, it was good. And because different people have different friendship needs, I get that. But now one afternoon though, I couldn't find anybody for like over 2.5 hours. And I don't know, I went to both pools, I went to the casino, didn't see any Oasis people anywhere. I was starting to think that there was a party that I was not invited to, and but I thought, okay, I can handle this. It's okay to be alone too. So I said, I'm going to go back to my cabin and read. So I sat down and tried to read, but I was like, just kind of pissed, so I couldn't really read, because I just had this feeling that I was missing out on something. That's through a pity party. Huh?
And nobody could find you either. You're in your cabin.
Well, that was after a long search on my part. So other than that, it was a great trip. Okay. Well, I did find out that there was these hot tubs at the front upper deck that people were, I don't know, so. And so I will say I'm okay being by myself sometimes, okay? So that's fine, it was good. So anyway, I left the trip more convinced than ever that we are building something special together, that we are building a tribe that this world needs, that people in this world need. And our 5 core values rock. People were wearing their "People are more important than beliefs" t-shirts all over the ship. And on the last day, I was waiting to disembark from the ship. I was standing in a big line of people in my hallway. You know, we're all lined up, waiting to get dismissed. It was taking a while, and there was a couple in front of me. And I was like eavesdropping on their conversation. And I overheard the wife say to the husband, we have to check this Oasis thing out. I like what they're doing. We really need one of those around here. At which point I piped up and said, funny you should mention that. I am here to help. And I think that's what this is ultimately a movement. It's wonderful that we don't have a dogma to spread. We don't have dogmas that are going to get in the way. We're never going to disagree over how to baptize or how to have communion or how you receive the Holy Spirit or anything like that. It's about building sustaining friendships that are going to nurture us on this journey of life and enjoy it together. Say, hey, look at that rainbow. Now, normally we go into kind of a Q&A and comment time, but today I want to turn the tables. And I ask you to brainstorm with me. So we're asking you for ideas okay, so here's the deal. We as an organization, there are limits to what we can do. I mean, we can provide an environment where friendships can develop. We can provide opportunities where those things can happen, but we can't be like the social equivalent of eHarmony. Say, come here and I will find a friend for you. There does need to be initiative. There does need to be things that we all do together individually that can help to create this environment where friendships can start and they can thrive. And this is up to us. So this is my question for you, and I'm going to brainstorm and write them down here. What?
My alarm clock.
Did you know the time changed? Okay. So what things can you do to make human connections happen and become more of a reality here in our community? Concrete things. Yes?
So for the people that use the Facebook group, sometimes sharing their story about how they kind of got here to this place, or not to Oasis, but to this free thinking.
Yeah, so share your story in the Facebook group.
Right, and if you do that, I think people will know what's important to you and what happens, stuff that you can talk about. And it'll be easy to connect to people who have similar experiences, who will kind of approach you and possibly talk to you.
I like that, yeah, that's very good. Okay, so sharing your story in the Facebook group, which reminds me that we actually do have a Facebook group that we try to announce it every week. If you're in the Facebook group, please raise your hand. Okay, if you know any of these people, if any of these people is your Facebook friend, as opposed to your real friend, your Facebook friend, you can send them a request and they will add you to the group. And that's really a great way for us to stay in touch. Thank you, that's a beautiful idea. I love that. Yeah.
What was the question again, Mike?
The question is, what are concrete things that you guys can do to help foster an environment where friendships can develop, to nurture relationships, to make human connections a reality? Other than just relying on, there's a social event that the party team put together, or there's a service project, but going beyond that, taking the extra step, and I think that was a beautiful idea. And I saw a couple more hands.
Yeah, I don't know.
Taki.
I don't know if you guys have it already. Thank you. I don't know if you guys have it already, but just activities. Like people can get together around certain activities, whether they like hiking or kayaking or camping. I saw the camping.
Yeah, the camping thing is coming up. So what I would say is if there's something that you like to do, and not everything has to be an official event. We do have certain kind of semi-official events, like the camping trip is coming up, or we had the cruise, we have bar night. But if there's, finding people that want to share something specific like that. I just talked to Ike on the way in, and he'd been reading *Sapiens*, and a couple others have been reading *Sapiens*, the book, and I'd like to do a little discussion thing. We'll probably be doing that fairly soon, or maybe in December, among people who have read the book and want to share those ideas. So that's something, that's something very specific you can do. If there's something you would like to do, I guarantee you there's a few other people out there that would like to do that thing that you want to do. So good. So that's, what was that? What's the big category for what you just said?
Events.
Events, like taking initiative and creating events.
Invite people to things you're already doing.
Yeah. Inviting people to things you're already doing. Shows, concerts, whatever. Yes.
You can do that by talking to the party committee.
The party committee can help.
As long as there's someone who wants to take initiative and start these events and host
Now,
Yeah, we can put them in the private Facebook group.
Austin's on the party committee, so if you'd like to help get the word out, she can help you with that. Yes?
Me?
Are you raising your hand?
Yes, okay. You can all come to my 50th anniversary party on Saturday, January 21st.
Also, if you're looking to make a human connection with people from outside the Oasis, you can go and do volunteer projects for other organizations. And if you wear your t-shirt, the question will be asked, what does that mean? And it's an opportunity to have a conversation. So wear your t-shirt when you're out other places.
When we find out to get your question back.
Something that we had been doing and kind of got dropped is we changed venues. That'd be interesting to start up again. It's like when Jesse had the podcasting class, and people could share their expertise now that we have
Okay.
more ability to do that.
Yeah, good. Sharing your expertise. And bear in mind, what we're going to focus on here is not, so that you can do, that's something you can take the initiative. I'm looking for things that you can say, hey, I can do this, and I can take the initiative to make this happen. One thing, and then I see, so we have Jennifer and then CB. I want to add another one here.
Getting back to the private group. Ask for help.
So like getting back to my hospital thing, finding people in your area or somewhere, I don't know, they have to be in your area, just someone in this group that'd be willing to come, okay? And this requires making yourself vulnerable. But I had because I had a little medical procedure a couple months ago, and I asked one of you guys to drive me because I needed a ride, and you did, and that was great. And now I've been putting off another exam that I'm going to need a ride to, but I realize I can't put it off because it's a colonoscopy, and I've never had one. So I know, and I was afraid of telling people that. Here I just told the whole world, okay? But it's, that's part of developing relationships is making yourself vulnerable to others, okay? And so, I'm sorry, Jennifer has the mic, and then over here, and then up here, we got a couple, then we might have to wrap it up.
So coming out of a religious setting, one of the things that churches do really well, especially the church that I came out of, was making small groups out of big groups. And so there's something that they call foyers, which is where they kind of match up maybe 4 or 5 couples, and they meet every month for like 6 months just to have dinner. And it's usually like a potluck or something real easy and simple. But the people get together and just set up a time to meet for dinner, and that way you get to know a few people really well, and then it changes up every, maybe the next year you meet another group of 6 couples or 6 people or whatever, and so that's a nice.
Okay, that's a good thought. We have I have an idea for a program that we'd like to launch in early in 2017, but I don't want to share it because I haven't shared it with the board yet, except a couple of board members. So something along those lines, but for the purposes of, so we're going to try to do something like that, but I think for the purposes of this morning, what I want to hear you guys say is things that I can do right now. And what that reminded me, Jennifer, is, okay, well, we have occasional potlucks, where we try to organize potlucks all over the city. Don't wait. Just find a few people and invite them over to your place for dinner, spontaneously. Everything doesn't have to be official. Take the initiative, and we can. So we will be doing something like that in 2017. But I think there are things that we can all do. Because a community has to become a group of groups, that's for sure. The one thing we can't be is Cheers. Cheers is, a place where everybody knows your name. I once saw that on an advertisement for Isle of Capri Casino on their billboard. And I thought, if everybody knows your name of the casino, you got a problem. But anyway.
3 hands up, still. How
So-
many questions can we take?
We probably got to wrap it up. So, maybe the last hands that were up,
Well, there were 2 there, and we got Richard and that.
that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, we got to wrap
I
it
know
up.
they understand how to be brief.
I like the expertise sharing thing, and that's something that individuals can take initiative on. And I am delighted to be in this particular building now because I think, and I don't know, maybe we can work out an education committee. I know we don't, but
but because we have to work out what's the venue going to be. I mean, there's a lot of people here that have a lot of great expertise that I would like to hear from them. I have a couple things I could teach, you know, whether it's Spanish or certain health-related things or whatever. So if we can work out a venue for that, I think that would be a great thing.
Like, the most obvious thing is walk up and talk to a stranger.
There are no strangers at Oasis.
Yes, Scott. Talk to people. Good.
Richard hit on it a little bit. What I was going to suggest is a lot of people here have expertise in different fields. Patronize each other. As far as
Talk down to them?
No, not that kind of. Okay. Be a patron of their business.
That's it. Yeah. Absolutely. Yes.
For instance, I made his wedding cake.
Absolutely, and that's beautiful. When we make these connections of being able to support each other and whatever we do in services and all that. Yeah. Okay, that was it?
I think that's about it.
Okay, that was it. Thank wonderful ideas, everybody, and then run with it. Because this is a great community, and we can always expand the love and reach out and touch more lives, and that's what we're doing. So thanks, I appreciate the conversation, and I am finished.